Hello, I'm Roy Johnson with Lads to Leaders, and I want to talk to you today about something that's very, very important, and that is a selection of your group leader at your church. Now, first of all, let me point out the autonomy of the church. Certainly, Lads to Leaders or no outside group should be making that selection for who it is that works with your youth or your adults in your local congregation. This is selection is made by your eldership or local church leadership. But please allow me to give you some suggestions of some qualifications that you might want to look for when you're thinking about group leaders. Number one, the group leader at your church needs to be a godly person. A godly person. We have a biblical example. Going back to Acts chapter 2, we see the church started there. But shortly after the church started, there was a need that arose because the Grecian widows were not being taken care of. And so the apostles need to continue doing their work. And they said, look out among you for some godly men to take on this work. Using that example, we need to look out among ourselves for some godly people to take on the role as group leader at your church. These people are mentors. They're examples. And so that's important that they be in good standing with your local church. Secondly, this person's got to have passion and enthusiasm because they need to care and have a heart for those that they're working with and those that they're training. I preached at a little country church for several years, and there was a railroad that went right by the church building. And every Sunday morning I'll be in a pulpit preaching, here come the train, and we'd have to stop because you cannot compete with a train. The train would go by. One day one little sister came up to me and she said, Brother Johnson, doesn't it bother you to have to stop when the train goes passing through? And I said, oh no. Oh no, I love it because the train is the only thing that goes through town I do not have to push. Now, whoever the group leader is going to have to push Lads to Leaders. They're going to have to push training. And that's why it's important to have a motivator, somebody who can push. Thirdly, this person has got to be somebody who's organized. There's some record keeping has to be done. There are some deadlines. Time to register, time to take care of motel rooms. And imagine if some little boy or some little girl has worked hard here at your church doing year-round speech or year-round song leading, and somebody forgets the deadline to put their name down so they do not receive their award in a timely manner. So this person has got to be an organized person. And also this person has got to be willing to delegate. Somebody says, I can't handle all this. This is too big. That's right. You delegate. The group leader doesn't have to be the coach for Bible Bowl or debate, or the group leader doesn't have to be teaching year-round song leading. The group leader should look out among the congregation and find this dear sister over here that will take care of the Keepers program, Proverbs chapter 31, and teach that to the young girls. Look around and get your song leader to teach year-round song leading. Select other people and delegate. That was an example, as we think about from the Old Testament, the book of Exodus with Moses, who had this great task of leading the children of God. And it was his father-in-law who said he needed to delegate things. And so the person's got to be a delegator. So what are the qualifications now for a group leader? Number one, the group leader has got to be a person who's godly and well standing with the local church. Number two, the person's got to have passion and desire on the inside and motivation. Number three, the person's got to be organized. And number four, willing to delegate. Well, who is this person? Many times the first thing we think of is, what about the preacher or certainly the youth director? And while they probably have all these skill sets, and they might work in a temporary basis, the ideal situation is to reach out from among you to find somebody that would be a deacon or a parent and get them involved in the process. Well, you say, how do I come up with who this person is and how do I get them to say yes? Let me make some suggestions here. As an eldership, sit down confidentially and come up with a list of your top 3 people that meet these qualifications. If you could have anybody at this church to lead this very, very important program, which 3 would you pick? And then set them in priorities. My first choice, second choice, and third choice. And keep this confidential. And now set up a meeting with your first prospect, the one you're going after first. Set up a meeting. The meeting might be after church. You might say, would you mind meeting with the elders a few minutes after church? Or as elders, could we come over to your house and visit with you sometime next week? We got to have something very important that we want to talk with you about. Now, after the meeting starts and they find out that you're not there to disfellowship them or they're not in trouble with something, then you can go from there and point out to them that there's a very, very important job at this church. And that is to be the group leader of Lads to Leaders. And you as an eldership or search committee have identified them as the best prospect. And you want them to seriously consider this. And I suggest you have prayer about it. And also offer that if they have other tasks that they're doing at the local congregation, you might be willing to change some of them, to shift things around, to make sure they have the opportunity to not be overburdened and to take on this very, very important responsibility. Also promise them your backing, that you will be behind them, you will support them, and you'll give them the resources to be successful. And let them know that Lads to Leaders has all type of training and coaching. We have books, materials, and videos to show a group leader how to do everything, and we're there for you to help you. I'm praying that you can find the right group leader, because that's key to success, not just of your Lads to Leaders group, but to the future of your church. Because training future leaders is going to determine where your church goes in the next 20, 40 years. That's how important it is, and I'll be praying for you.